and welcome to episode 30 of That Time I Got Arrested. Hi. I feel like it's been a really long time. I mean, it's only been like a week for you, but I haven't been here in a fucking month. I pulled myself out of the woods just for you. I've missed you so much, and I am really grateful to everyone who's been reaching out to me in the last couple of weeks. I mean, fuck, dude. This has been the worst year of my fucking life, but it's also been really cool in a lot of ways. Like, I'm getting this opportunity to meet new people and also reconnect with friends that I haven't fucking talked to in decades. Like, I knew this girl in first grade and she listens to the show now. Shout out Angela Washer. She shared this show with one of her friends who listened to it over a road trip, listened to every single episode. Shout out Grace. I am so grateful for both of you, and it was cool to hear from you. I know a bunch of you fucking weirdos who are listening have like known me forever and you haven't said shit to me about it yet, and I'm just saying that like I see you and I would love to hear from you. I also love when I hear from Kristen and Chris and Melanie. Like, these are people that I've never met before, that I didn't know before I started doing this, and now I text and I talk to them and DM them on a regular basis, and like we're friends and like we're all gonna hang out. Like, literally all three of those people and I have plans to like meet up and like be friends because this is intimate, you know? Like, this is like a piece of me. And so in this episode, I'm going to ask you for a favor and to share something really like vulnerable and awful that's happened to you with me. And you'll hear more about that later. But that's coming. Those submissions, those thoughts and feelings, shoot them to my DMs on Instagram, bcasper, or That Time I Got Arrested, or you can email us at thattimeigotArrested@gmail.com. I want to hear all of your stuff. I love you so much. Have you subscribed? I love you, say it back, you know? I love you, say it back by subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Shout out Spotify, where like I guess 10% of our fucking listeners are coming from, and like that's really cool. And like 25% of our fucking listeners. That's really cool. That is so cool. But please also go on iTunes and leave us a review, though. Even if you listen to us on Spotify, just like, you know, do me a solid. I love you. My name is B. Casper, and my entire life has been a lie. That's not even my real name. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you all of my secrets. This isn't the story of how I became an orphan. This isn't the story about how I jumped off a 5-story building and survived. This isn't about how I died and came back funny. This is That Time I Got Arrested. Okay, let's just jump in and I'll bring you back in time, exactly to where I was and what was happening the last time we spoke. Hi. So I was on the ground. I was inching away from this guard that I had just kicked in the face, and his nose was bleeding, and I looked wild and crazy. And I feel like this is one of those moments where, you know, everyone has a breaking point, and sometimes you can just see something snap in someone's eyes, and then you know that they're like in a really special place. So I think that guy, that guard, could see that in my eyes. So instead of continuing his advances of attempting to rape me in the shower, he instead radioed for 4 other guards to come and hold me down and take me to solitary confinement. Because, I mean, I did fucking kick him in the face. I'm not sorry. Kicked in the face, and I am not sorry. So they dragged me, basically, like each of them had an arm and a leg, like literally dragged me to solitary confinement. And let me just explain to you what that is in prison. So you've heard about it. Maybe if you listen to Mike O'Keefe's podcast, Buddy of the Groom, hey, check him out. On there, he asked me if I had ever been to the hole. And I sort of like started this story. This is what the hole, this is what solitary confinement, this is what that is like. So I think, what's the other word for it? SEG. They call it SEG in county. So here's what they do. They strip you completely naked because they have to check and see if you have any weapons, right? And since people in solitary will often try and commit suicide, what they do is they put you in a room with nothing. And so you're probably thinking like, okay, you're in jail, you already have nothing, right? Like, no, not the case. I mean, first of all, I have fucking clothes. Second of all, I mean, I have like books, I have a radio, I have food, I have a television, I have fucking stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in prison, sure, but I'm in a first world country and I have money. So like, I've got a bunch of shit. So now I have nothing. But now I'm not even just talking about like nothing, like not all the shit that I could buy with money in prison. I'm talking about like, I don't have a fucking bed. Like, there's no mat on the bed. It's just a metal bench with no blankets, no pillows, no sheets, no cushion, no nothing. Like, nothing. There's no fucking toilet paper. Like, nothing. There's no soap. There's no toothbrush. There's no books. There's no stuff. There's no nothing. I'm just in a cinder block box, and there's a metal bench, and I have no clothes, and there are bright lights that are on 24 hours a day, and I'm on camera. So cool. I guess like also what a lot of people do when they're in this situation, and this is like kind of hilarious, if not completely ridiculous, is they'll like defecate and then they'll like wipe it all over the walls. So like, I'm also in a room that's literally covered in human feces, and I have no clothes on, and I have no blankets, and I have no toilet paper, and I'm just fucking there. So fun. So I don't know exactly how long I'm going to be there when they take me. You know, I knew that it was bad. Usually when you get sent to SEG, it's like a day, maybe like 3 days. That's like a lot, you know, that's a lot to be naked in a room by yourself with nothing, you know, that's like torture. It's mental torture. It's like, that's what they do to spies when they capture them. That's like a prisoner of war type of shit, you know, like I spent, this is epic, 168 hours, 10,080 minutes, 648,000 seconds in solitary confinement. So that situation, naked, no blankets, nothing, no food, no books, nothing, no people, nothing. Can I say nothing one more time? There's nothing in there. So like, what is there when there's nothing? You know, like what are you left with? That is, that's some kind of question. That's like some form of ego death, I guess you could say, is to have to figure out what you're going to do with yourself for 168 hours of nothing, of literally nothing. So this is going to be a weird episode, and I'm excited to really let you in to me. Now you're really going to like, I mean, I've let you guys into my heart, but like now you're going to really like get in my head. You know, I think that a lot of people have like a lot of like questions about me. You know, I probably have forced you to make some assumptions. And I think that my social media presence obviously like doesn't help because like, hey, I know I'm weird. Like, do you think I don't know that I'm weird? Like I'm weird. I get it. But like, I'm weird because I'm different, because like, how many people do you know have spent 160 hours in nothing and they're not 30? Like, you know, and they're not like former like military, if they have never like worked for the government, or if they're not from sort of like a third world country. Like, what do you think that would like do to a human being? I guess you just like end up a little weird. But I think I was weird before that. And I think that's why I got into a weird situation. And I think that's why I'm even weirder now. But, you know, what's cool about doing this and what's cool about these experiences now is that I get to make these relationships with all of you that are listening. I mean, not all of you, definitely not all of you. I mean, it'd be cool if like all of you hit me up, but like a bunch of you like reach out and you tell me how you feel about stuff, and maybe you feel comfortable doing that because I'm telling you how I feel about everything. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic. So this episode is really about nothing, but it's also about everything. everything. I'm going to just give you everything right now. And where do you start with nothing? At first, like I said, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. You have to go to this like weird miniature trial when you get in trouble in prison, so they can like evaluate what you did. They write you a ticket. You have to like read that ticket in front of another officer, and then that officer like listens to what the guard who wrote you the ticket said, and then they listen to what you said. It all sounds very democratic, right? But it's not, because you're fucked like before you even get there. It's just like, how fucked are you? You know what I mean? And that's kind of how the criminal justice system works too. It's like there are certain things that happen to people in their lives from the minute they're born, like not even from the minute they're born, from like the minute their ancestors are born, where several generations of people are just fucking fucked, you know? And like that's what's really sick about all of this. So I was fucked because I kicked some dude who tried to rape me. Like, what? What? How is any of this real, you know? And what's really interesting, I think, about what's like changing in this world is that all of this shit, plus so much worse, has been going on since the beginning of time. Except now there are people like me, and there are other people out there that have gathered enough privilege in their life that they're able to like open their big fat fucking mouths and be like, hey, this fucking happened and it's not okay. And like, also, what the fuck, you know? But it's complicated. It's layered. We're all containing multitudes. So like, yeah, this is fucked up, sure. And like, it's easy to be like, hey, you're a victim, whatever. I don't even like that. But it's more like the world is fucked up. Like, we're all sick collectively. But in order to heal ourselves, you know, to heal the world, is we sort of have to like take everything off. We have to realize that we're all the same. And then we have to like share our pain. Which sounds so like hokey, you know, when I hear myself say it and I'm just kind of like rolling my eyes like with you, like I get it, like I know how it sounds, but like really it's like all suffering is suffering. So it's like the more there are people that are just gonna pretend like suffering doesn't exist, which is what we've been doing, you know, in our country specifically, but like in the world, it's so much easy to turn around and pretend that there aren't like billions of people out there that are suffering, and like it doesn't fucking affect you. Like every time, you know, you get a Starbucks cup that's like made out of plastic that's going to end up in the fucking ocean, like that affects someone across the world, and that's like really small, but it's also like, hey, vote, you know what I mean? But also like maybe we should fucking like change the whole world, but then that's a really big job. So it's more like, are you still with me? It's more like you got to really change yourself. You know, you have to like go in. It's an inside job, you know, you have to go in. You have to figure out what's wrong with you. And you have to like look at it and realize that shit happens and people are bad, but like, so are you. But like those bad people are good and so are you. So it's like, we're all God. Do you get it? Did I lose you? I know. Okay. So I had to go to this trial, right? I had to go to this little like mini like hearing to see what the fuck they were going to do to me, how long they were going to make me exist in nothing, how much they were going to tell me that like I'm nothing, because in a moment, it's not weakness, but like it was weakness, because I could have just taken it, and then I wouldn't have had to sit there for 168 hours of nothing. So I go to this hearing, and who's there? The fucking captain, right? Of course, because it was me, because I kicked this guy in the face after I left his office, and I didn't fucking kiss him like you wanted me to. Men are so petty and small and weak. And that's why women are oppressed so much, because they're terrified of us, because we're better in every way, you know? And I'm not saying like, oh, and the patriarchy to replace it with a matriarchy. But I'm also saying men aren't allowed to be in charge anymore. And they know that, like, if we were in charge, everything would be different and it'd probably be better. But I mean, change is hard. You know what I mean? Like, try and change yourself. Try and change yourself, and then tell me that, like, it's easy to change. So So I go to this hearing, and there's the captain, and there's the guard, and there's me. I'm just coming out of solitary confinement, and I had been there for maybe like 18 hours at this point, you know? So I've spent 18 hours in a bright room, completely naked, with no toilet paper and no books and no window, like no person. Like they won't even really give you food in solitary. You can't take any of the food that you have in, you know, in your possession before getting taken in. And the food that they give you is basically just like a normal tray of food, but they fuck it up. They put everything together so that it's completely inedible because they're just trying to make you as miserable as humanly possible, as if that was possible. It is. Just remember, you know how people say it gets better? Well, also it can always get worse. Like always. Like I fucking thought, and how many times do you have to hear me say this before you believe me? But like, I thought that prison was like the worst. And then I got sent to solitary confinement, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know what bad was. Right. Okay, cool. So I'm standing in front of these two men, and I'm honestly, at this point, like I haven't eaten, I like haven't slept. I've been like standing up because I like can't really sit down yet. You know, I haven't like gotten to the point where I'm like so tired of standing, I will just have to sit on this like floor completely naked and this bench that's made out of metal and freezing and this room that's like covered in human feces. Like I haven't been able to like sit down yet. So like now I look like if I looked like a wild maniac before when this guy decided to radio and send me to solitaire instead of raping me. Yeah, that's like the point that I got to in prison. Like now I am a completely different human being. This is the episode where like my metamorphosis is complete. And what's like the reverse, if like the Benjamin Button of butterflies, like I'm not a butterfly. I'm in this crazy cocoon where I am going to like regress into a psychopath / future serial killer, because I'm like looking at these two men and I'm not even a fucking human being anymore. I am plotting their deaths slowly and painfully in my head, and I don't give a fuck about anything. I am ready to spend the rest of my life in jail so that I can murder these two men. They haven't even fucking opened their mouths yet. I'm just standing there. This is going to be a weird episode too, because like time isn't real. Like I already knew that from all the drugs that I had taken, but now there are no drugs. Now I'm just like experiencing time in a different way because it's like being in a sensory deprivation tank, essentially. I had been standing and like crazed for 18 hours. And now I'm staring at these two men and I'm plotting their murders. And they haven't even opened their mouths yet. So I'm waiting. I'm seemingly calm and patient because it's weird. It's like one of the things that happened to me while I was in prison was like, I got a real fucking cool exterior. I think that it's funny because a lot of people are like, you're hard to read. You know, I get that feedback from like acquaintances, you know, and like dudes say that to me a lot. You're hard to read. Because I fucking like sliced someone's throat in my head while they were standing in front of me. And I like, you know, some people like joke about that. Like I couldn't be more serious when I say that I was really wanting to kill these two men. And they looked at me and I'm pretty sure that they could see that in my eye. And I mean, what do you do when you see such wild rebellion? You have to stamp it out. So I got one of the harshest sentences that you could get for solitary confinement, which was 1 full week. So fucking cool. Like, cool. I got it. So they went over everything really quickly and didn't even really give me a chance to talk. And I think then I had kind of like started hyperventilating too. Like, Like I was doing one of those because I was like really upset. And I think that maybe I scared them a little bit because after that they sent me to the psychiatrist and they tried to like put me on medication. So I could have almost, I don't even know if I would have been taking the easy way out, but like I could have been doped up like while I was going through that experience, but I refused it. And I don't know. I don't know what came over me in that moment, in all of those moments where I had just been like pushed to my absolute limit. And if I hadn't been in solitary confinement, completely naked with nothing and no one and nothing, I mean, I'm pretty sure I would have killed myself or somebody else. Absolutely. Would have killed maybe the next person that just like looked at me funny. So it's weird. Like, do you know yourself? How well do you know yourself? How far would you have to get pushed to get to a point where not only are you specifically planning murders about certain people that have wronged you, but you also feel like you could hurt someone, seriously hurt someone for no good reason? That's fucking sick. That's fucked up. Yeah. And I mean, like, I have to really, really be conscious of that I have like a sick, twisted, fucked up, evil, like dark side of myself, you know, a side of myself that I had never even seen before. I didn't even know it existed. I never, ever felt like I wanted to harm anyone before that. You know what I mean? Like, especially not physically. Like, I got my ass beat on a regular basis. Like, I never punched anyone back. That's not who I am. Like, I don't fight people. I don't hurt people. Like, I didn't have siblings. Like, I never got into those like physical altercations that, you know, like you get into growing up, like just not who I am. But there I was, 168 hours, 10,080 minutes, man, 648,000 seconds. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to the meat of it. Like, what did I do for all that time? Like, what did I think about? Did I turn into some sort of like Jedi master? Did I, you know, learn how to manipulate the Force? Did I meditate myself into some kind of transcendence? You know, no. Absolutely not. I mean, like, fuck, like, I wish I could just be like, I am this enlightened Buddha that has conquered all of my demons and I have vanquished everything evil and dark inside of me now because I've, like, spent all of this time going inward. But, like, when you're in situations like that, I think that you want to think of yourself as some sort of, like, hero, even if it's just the hero of your own sanity, that you can, like, pull yourself in and out of hardship, you know, when things get rough, you know, or like maybe you can't even imagine what I'm talking about. I feel like it's got to be pretty hard to relate to this experience specifically because most of the people listening have like never gone through anything close to this. But I mean, I'm sure you've been through something hard, you know, think of like the hardest thing you've ever gone through and like what that pushed you to do and become and like see and know about yourself and about the world around you and how that like changed you fundamentally as a human being. Like those are the parts of our lives, those are the pieces where we either like, you know, expand or like shrink. And I think it's easier to shrink. In those moments, the stuff that went through my head was fucking wild and fucked up, you know? I thought about every relationship I had ever had, you know, I thought about every sexual experience I had ever had, including every single moment of like every single rape that I experienced in, you know, Dwight and beyond. I thought about my mom a lot. It's a weird non sequitur, but my mom had a pretty profound impact on like my sexual worldview. So I think that it is all sort of related because it's like our parents are really the first relationship that we ever had. And my dad disappeared when I was 5. So it was like my mom was really like the first relationship I ever had. She was the first person to ever break my fucking heart, you know? She was a terrible mother in so many ways, but there are like moments in your life of terribleness that run together. And then there are experiences that you have that stick out. And they are like the memories that are burned into your brain, right? So I have this one memory of my mom when I was like 8 or 9 years old. We were driving through Palm Springs. I will never forget this moment as long as I live. And you know, this is something that probably like didn't matter to her at all, didn't even stick out. But this is like something that haunted me to this day. You know, something I like literally thought about this today while I was on a plane. I thought about this last night before I went to bed. But when I was with my mom in that car in Palm Springs and we were driving around, one time she, you know, told me, and she used to talk a lot of shit about my dad, which I always kind of like hated growing up because he was gone and he was sort of easier to turn into a hero. Well, she was the one who was there all of the time, pretty much like cleaning up his mess, you know, in some ways. And I think she did a pretty shitty job at it. So I like hated her, rightfully so, but like hated her for being there sometimes, you know? So she would talk a lot of shit about him. And one time we were in the car and she said, you know, I didn't even know if your father was your real father until you were 8 months old. And I was like, what? Like I was in 3rd grade and I was like, what do you mean? How did you find out? And she goes, I wasn't sure if you were his or this other guy, and like said his name, who was like this dude that she had kind of like fucked on and off like throughout my childhood. So like I had heard about him. I had heard his name. She would like drive to LA to go see him because he owned a bunch of nightclubs and they'd sort of like met around the same time. And I guess my mom was like fucking both of them and got pregnant and didn't know who the father was until I was 8 months old. She said that she took me to a doctor to get a blood test with this other guy because she had wished that he was my real father because he was like an actual businessman who owned several nightclubs in Los Angeles, and they're like famous. He's like a famous like nightclub, what do you call it, entrepreneur, or like, yeah, famous nightclub entrepreneur in LA now, and is like worth a bunch of money. So obviously she's like, yeah, I like wish that he would have been your real father instead of this like drug dealer, murderer who like is in, you know, incarcerated now. And I was just like, whoa, I'm 8. That's so heavy. That was so heavy. And I like at 8 years old knew that it was wrong of her to tell me that. Like that would have been a fucked up thing to tell me when I was 18, but like let alone 8. This is not going to just be stories about my shitty mom, but I do have another one. So here's the other story. This one's fucked up. This is what I'm thinking about in solitary confinement. My mother was friends with our neighbor in Laguna Hills, California, when I was in 4th grade. Our neighbor was also a mother who had a son who was my age. My mother had just very recently become divorced from her second husband, the guy she married right away after my dad. And this woman was very recently divorced from this guy named Mark. So that woman, our neighbor, would like watch me and her son when my mom would like go out and party. And then sometimes like that boy would like come over to my house and, you know, my mom would just like leave us alone because she was crazy and do fucked up shit like that. But, you know, so we kind of would like, I would like play with this kid and we would be at each other's house very often. And then at one point we like lost our apartment and we had to like move in with them. And we like literally slept, my mom and I, together in this like race car bed of this like 9-year-old kid's boy's bed. And he like slept in his mom's room. And it was like a fucked up situation. You know, my mom was really into drugs and like I had no idea what was going on because I was just like a fucking kid. You know, I like thought it was cool that I didn't have to go to school very often, you know, but I had no idea like really like the depths of like how fucked my situation was. So this woman basically did everything for us. She watched me. She took care of me. She took my mother and I in when we were at like a super low point, and one day I walked in on my mom and her ex-husband having sex in her bed. And when I opened the door, I have that image burned into my brain, and I just like gasped, and I was like, which is my like knee-jerk response to being scared and surprised, weirded out, and fucking fucked up. And my mom, because she is my mother after all, she gasped. Because I'm sure she was embarrassed, and she was probably like, just feeling all sorts of weird things. But I mean, she fucking put herself in that situation, which is like, oh my God, that's so fucked up. That's so fucked up. That's so fucked up. And I mean, P.S., I've been cheated on by every single guy I've ever dated. But like, that's so fucked up, Like, that's so fucked up. So my mom, knowing how fucked up what she was doing and not being able to really explain herself and being this like huge hypocrite of pretending to be, religious and pious and sort of demure, but it's all this like big act, told me that this guy raped her and like sold me this story that this man had like raped her against her will and was like manipulating her and forcing her to like stay quiet about it. And we would, after this, shit got really weird. We would like meet him in hotel rooms, and they would like fuck in the bed like next to me, and my mom would like get money from him. Like, this shit was like sick and twisted and weird. And like, my mom was manipulating me at that age because like she knew that I had been raped as a child. Like, this is the kind of fucking shit that lands you in prison in solitary confinement for 168 hours. And when you're in that situation, these are the memories that are going through your head. Like, this is my trauma. Like, yeah, you've heard like a bunch of fucking horrible shit that happened to me, but like, that was based on my own decisions and like the bad situations that I got myself in. But like, the reason I got myself into these bad situations is because of like this fucking terrible, traumatic, crazy, fucked up, sick, twisted childhood that I had. This isn't like my transcendence into Zen. This is like, I've just been fucked so hard every which way by life. And now I'm sitting in a situation where I have to deal with all of the fucking fucked up shit that got me there. It didn't really like get better from there. I spent the rest of the time reliving memories like that, really like going over all of the fucking bullshit that I had been through that got me there. Because I think what I'd like to think now about myself is that I was diving in, that I was going in while I was there. Well, I didn't have any fucking choice. Like, literally couldn't have been more forced to go in than in that situation. But I went in to all the shit that hurt me the most, so that I could fucking, I'm gonna fucking cry. I went into all that dark shit so that I could figure out, how I had gotten there, how I was in a situation where I was naked and I had nothing and I, couldn't eat and I had, no blankets and there were cameras and lights on and like, couldn't have been more humiliated, couldn't have been more vulnerable, couldn't have been like, God, knock on wood, fuck, right? Like, I hope that I'll never have a lower point in my life than being in solitary confinement for a week. And I hope that I never put myself in a situation like that, It's hard to like take myself out of this hole, literally and figuratively, because I mean, like, time just completely seemed to stop. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm still there because every second was several centuries long, and every hour was several eternities, and every day was several infinities stacked on top of each other. So like I might as well still be there in my mind. It's like you never really get to leave, you know, but I did get out. I did get out, and I got sent to Dr. Evil right away. And she told me, this is really fun, that I was dangerous. She said I was dangerous and I was unpredictable. And they had said that I fought back when they were trying to take me into solitaire, which I don't remember so much, but I don't really think it's true. I mean, it was like 4-1. Like, it was crazy that I even fucking kicked that guy in the face. Like, that's so out of character for me. That was crazy. So, like, allegedly, I fought back. So she said that because of that, now I would be spending the first 90 days of my release on house arrest. And my parole site had like changed like very recently. So my mom had initially said that I could parole at her place, and I just like needed a place to go, and I was about to get out, and she had like said yes up until like the day that she was supposed to like, I don't know, answer the phone for the prison guard so they could like do all the paperwork and figure it out, because they don't just like let you go. You have to like go somewhere, whether it's like a halfway house or like a parole site. It has to be like someone's address, and they have to be willing to answer the phone and say, yes, this prisoner can come live here when they come get out of prison, you know? And to get into a halfway house, it's usually like a couple of months of a wait. So you have to get on that list several months before you're about to get released. Does this all make sense? Right. Logistics. So, right. My mom is like, no, she can't come here at the last minute, even though every like point of communication that we had before that, she had said yes, 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 until it was like time to make it official. And then she said no. And here's why. Here's why. So my mom had started dating a guy that was like 2 years older than me. So he was like 20 years younger than her. And he was a drug addict. Obviously, they both were. But like, they lived together and they would do drugs in their apartment, and decided that they didn't want me to parole there because he had been to jail and she didn't want him to go back to jail. So it's like, you know, fuck her, you know, right? So she changed the parole site, and I found out right when I got out of solitaire, it can always get worse. Never forget that. It can always get worse. And then I found out I had to do 3 months of house arrest, and I found out I had to figure out a place to go. And until I figured out a place to go, I was going to be there for forever. Like, literally had months now added on to my sentence. So now I think I'm about to get out, and right after spending all of that time locked in a room with nothing, literally nothing, completely humiliated, surrounded by shit, literal shit. Now I have to stay in prison for another 90 days. This is the stuff when I'm like empty, you know, when I'm hurt, when I feel fucked up, when I feel alone. Like, this is the stuff that haunts me. And fuck, I mean, I have to like, yeah, my therapists have heard this shit, and like my closest friends, but this is my trauma. This is our pain. I'm sharing it with you. Yo, right into the show. Tell me about the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Just so I feel less alone, you know, like, I told Erin that I like really didn't want to be this like Me Too girl, you know, that like connects other people to those stories. But it's like fucking whatever. Maybe we could just talk about what hurts, you know? And if we all can like acknowledge this pain and learn how to heal from it together, like the world will change, you know? Like, so It is so fucking grandiose and like shitty of me to sit here and be like, I'm changing the world with my podcast. But also like, tell me what hurts you. I am genuinely interested and I honestly care about your pain, you know, because I feel like if you're listening to this episode, you're here because you honestly care about mine, you know, because that's fucking all I do here. And crack jokes sometimes. Bon voyage.